Hello and welcome to this segment of Let's Talk About It. I hope you guys are going to enjoy this show just as much as I am going to enjoy this show. It's about relationships. Make sure you stay tuned. You don't want to miss this episode. Hello and welcome to this edition of Let's Talk About It with my guest today, Mr. Gayland Flye, Quinchelle Gilbert, and Yong Kwan. The topic of discussion is relationships. We're all talking about relationships, something that all of you guys can relate to. I have so many friends that have different relationships and trouble and problems and things like that in their relationship, so I thought it'd be a good subject matter. So welcome my guests to the show.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for being here. I want to jump right into it. Mr. Flye, what's one of the key things that you think that needs to happen in order for a relationship to work?
Firstly, Ferrell, thank you so much for having me on the panel. I really appreciate that. And number one for me would probably be a perfect synergy.
Okay.
Just having someone that I am, have a perfect synergisticness, if you would. Just someone that is concise, as I am concise, and just having somewhat of a partnership.
Okay.
That's very important to me.
Okay. And for me, I think it's important that we have things in common. And so often I think we try to fit things that just don't fit. And then that's a recipe for failure, in my opinion. Young, I'd like to ask you, what's one of the key elements in making a relationship work that you feel?
Well, I like to say I have a list of items that I like to mention, but the first thing would be communication, style of communication. Some people like to respond with a very simple yes or no, and that's really the end of the communication.
Okay.
Or some people, like myself, I like to elaborate a little further beyond a yes or a no. Like, what's the thinking behind it?
So you like an explanation to
Yes.
follow the yes or the no.
That's right. Yes.
And I think the explanation will give you a better idea of what that person is talking about, and you can better understand what they're talking about if they give you the rationale behind it.
Right.
Right?
And also with today's, technology, with texts and emails, I think we're more conducive to giving short answers, and there's no feeling behind it. So sometimes it can be misunderstood.
I agree. In fact, oftentimes text messages can really be misunderstood. I know for myself, a lot of times if I get a text message, I will create my own story and my own tone that I think is coming from the person that sends the text. And my perception could be totally wrong.
Right.
And oftentimes it is. You know, I think good, effective communication should happen when you can actually hear
Yep.
a person's voice, not so much via a text message.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
So I'm going to talk about a few other things. I want to talk about cheating in relationships.
Yes.
And Quinchelle Gilbert, I'm going to ask you.
Am I the cheater?
No. I doubt that you are. You look like a woman of integrity to me.
This is true.
This is true. All right. So
Yes.
is cheating one of the things that should be forgiven in a relationship? And how many times should you forgive before you make the final decision to depart from a relationship?
Cheating should never be forgiven. I'm just kidding. I think yes, I think there is, there can be, cheating, number one, is just unacceptable any way you go, okay? But I think sometimes there are situations where, you can make amends and that person can be forgiven and you can move forward from it. But me, I can't say that I would or I wouldn't. I've not been in that situation yet, but if I get to the situation, then it'll have to be on a case-by-case basis. Like, brother, how sorry are you?
Right.
Yeah.
How much are you willing to show me?
Right.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
You can forgive them by what they do to get your forgiveness, right? Are they sorry because they got caught?
Right.
Or are they sorry because they realized
They're
they
truly
were
sorry
right?
from the heart.
Exactly.
So, this leads me to my next question. What causes a person to cheat? And I'm going to ask you first, Gayland.
Probably not feeling accepted enough, and not getting that, I guess if you would, attention that is necessary from their particular mate or partner.
Okay. Quinchelle Gilbert.
See, well, although I can accept your answer, I'm going to have to say that to me, that feels like a cop-out, because if you're going to cheat because you're not being understood or you're not being accepted or talk to me. That's where the communication comes in.
Yeah.
So before you make a conscious decision, and I don't, a lot of people, before I finish that, a lot of people start to say that, cheating is a mistake. I don't believe that's a mistake. It is a conscious decision
I agree.
to do what you're choosing to do. So before you make the conscious decision to, you know, go have relations or a relationship with someone other than your partner, then communicate. You know, people like to use excuses as a reason why they did what they did when there really isn't an excuse, because you can just talk to me.
Right.
Let's work
There you
this
go.
out before you make a conscious decision to go and do something else.
And what happens is that person who's doing the cheating don't want to talk to you
Right.
because they want to do what they want to do, and they would like to keep you where you are.
Exactly.
That's what happens. It's like having your cake and eating it too, if you will.
The best of both
Absolutely.
worlds.
The best of
Right.
both worlds.
Mhm.
And in a perfect world, it just don't work.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I want to ask you the same question.
Okay. What was the question again?
The question is, what are the things that causes a person to cheat?
Well, there's a surface answer, and I think there's a deeper answer.
Give me both your answers.
Okay. So the surface answer is you're just not happy. The person's not listening to you. You don't feel the connection anymore. The infatuation, the craziness is kind of gone. So you're feeling left a little empty, maybe a little boring or whatever. But I think the deeper answer is the individual is not aware of their own emotions. They're lost in their true identity, or they're not spiritually connected, and instead of looking for another partner to fill that void, and instead of searching God to fill the void, you're looking for an external thing to fill the void. And I think that's just the wrong way to go. I think or some people don't even cheat, they just start buying things, going to crazy debt, or they start drinking, but it's all at an essential
It's a vice.
level.
Yeah.
It's an essential level. They're looking for something external to fill their emptiness. But if they don't even realize they're trying to fill that void, they're just going around in circles, feeling
yeah.
unhappy, and
Right.
expecting their partner to fill that negativity or whatever the case
Right.
may be.
You know, like we were talking about communication a moment ago, and it's important to communicate, but what happens when you're communicating what you feel to your partner, and your partner is not hearing what you're communicating, and after you've repeated yourself
Yeah.
time and time again, and nothing changes, it stays the same. Personally, I think that's one of the times that you begin to look at other options. When you realize this person really isn't hearing what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
They're not really listening to me. Are they paying attention to me? Do they even care about me?
Absolutely.
You know, and I think it's those types of things that oftentimes give us permission to cheat
Right.
or do things outside of the relationship. Not to say that it's right,
No.
but a lot of times that opens the door for opportunities to come in. And a lot of times with women, if they don't feel like they're getting the attention that they should get from their husbands or the person that they're with, a lot of times the women, if other guys are trying to talk to you or holler at you, it's like, okay, well, I do look good. I am fine. I am sexy.
Yeah,
I
looking
am
for validations.
Yong Kwan. I am Tezzy Gilbert. Don't get it twisted. That's these ladies right here. But anyway, but a lot of times that's what happens. And when it does, then we open doors for other things to come in, you know, and it could certainly be the deterioration or the beginning of the deterioration of that particular relationship, you know. So communication is very important
Absolutely.
on every level, you know, in our day-to-day lives, in our relationship with parents and children, with family, with our co-workers. Communication is very important. I'm really enjoying this dialogue, needless to say, and I hope you guys are enjoying it just as much as I am.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'm having a lot of fun. We're going to be right back in just a moment with more of Let's Talk About It. Hello and welcome back to Let's Talk About It. Today's subject matter is about relationship. These are my wonderful guests, Mr. Gayland Flye,
Tezzy Gilbert.
Tezzy Gilbert. I'm bad with names, y'all. Y'all just got to forgive me. And Yong Kwan. We're talking about relationships, and this is a very interesting topic. You know, I want to get straight into it. What do you guys think about? There's a name for it now. It's called cougars. What do you think about cougars? These older women that are going after these younger men. You know what? Okay, exactly. Young, let me ask you first. What do you think about that?
Oh.
Oh, you're guilty. I'm sorry. No.
Ouch. No. Why not?
Is that your answer?
Why not?
Okay, Young says, why
It's
not?
mutual. So.
Is that right? Okay, Ms. Gilbert?
As long as he's over 21.
As long as he's over 21.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Flye, how do you feel about that?
I have mixed emotions on that subject matter. Cougars, to me, in my standpoint as a male, I see it as being an older woman, younger man. And many times I think being a woman as a cougar it means that they buy them. I think that they can buy
The
a
younger man.
Right, absolutely, and I don't think that's always fair.
Right.
And or right, and it opens the door to some issues and some problems.
I totally agree. And I think another thing that happens in situations like that is that the cougar, being the older woman, will expect the man to have the same level of maturity that she has, and oftentimes it just don't happen because the mindset of a man, even a man and woman at the same age, oftentimes it don't match up. So when you go even lower than that, you cannot have the expectation that this man is going to have the same level of maturity that you have. And that happens when I see these types of, and I've seen these types of relationships, and they expect the boy to quit, or I'm saying the boy, to quit playing with the toys, but he's still a young boy. You married a young boy. So
Right.
these are the consequences that you got to deal with for marrying the young boy.
Absolutely.
Right?
Right.
So
Perfect point.
when you think about playing in the play yard with a little boy, expect to get the results of playing in the play yard with a little boy. But I want to ask both of you ladies, what's your motivation for dating a younger man, if you do and if you chose to?
Personally, I would not date a younger man, only because I agree with what you say, or what you said
Mhm.
about him being in a little boy's frame of mind. We all know that women do mature faster than men. So I personally cannot raise a son when I am a grown woman with a child of my own. So I'm not going to raise two kids. So I'd rather have a man that's experienced, that's focused, that's driven, that has goals, and I don't have to explain to him what a goal is, and that's going out and basically able to provide the kind of lifestyle that I am accustomed to, and me not having to teach him how to do that.
Whoa. I think that's a very, very good answer. Young, I'll ask you.
Just because it's my nature, I'm going to throw in an opposing view.
Go ahead.
The benefit, I think, of dating a younger man is they still have a youthful spirit, whereas an older gentleman, they sometimes have a view in life where it's over, right? So then, if the woman still has the youthful spirit in trying to achieve something or reach something, or they still want to do things, and they look at their guy, and their guy's like, I just want to, do nothing over the weekend, let's just go hang out at the movies. That can become really boring. Whereas a younger guy, they still have this vibrance, right? Vitality. They still have big dreams. They're working very hard to achieve it, and that whole dynamic is very exciting.
Okay, you know what? I hear what you're saying.
Mhm.
I don't totally agree with what she's saying. Now, what I feel is that you can get a younger man, and you can hope that he has these same types of dreams and goals and ambitions, but he might not. Okay, so just
True.
being young does not mean that you will have these ambitions.
Right.
There are some older gentlemen that might have those ambitions, that might have that youthful spirit about
Absolutely.
themselves, whereas some younger men might not. They might want to play Atari and sit in
Yeah.
front of the TV all day long.
That's what I was
Absolutely.
thinking.
I mean,
like the Sega Genesis generation, the PlayStation
Yeah.
generation. I want to go and dance, and you want to sit and play games all night. That's not gonna work.
That's not gonna work for you, So we gotta, there's some things we gotta figure out. But a lot of times we don't know it until we know it,
Yeah.
You bet.
Because you can get involved with someone and think, oh, this is the perfect relationship. Then 3 or 4 months down the road, you're like, dang,
Yeah.
you're a serial killer.
Mhm.
I mean,
Very
you
true.
don't know until you know. Oftentimes, I want to touch on another subject that we kind of touched on just a moment ago
Mhm.
about infidelity. All right.
Mm.
Can you ever see yourself being the outside woman? I'm gonna ask Miss Gilbert. I'm gonna ask you first.
Never.
Say it again.
Never.
Never.
If I find out that I am the outside woman, you gotta go. You're on a timeout.
You're on timeout.
You're on a timeout.
All right.
That's
Young,
okay.
how about yourself?
So, I'm going to be transparent, right? Because I like to create some tension in this
We want you to
dialogue.
do you, baby. Do you.
So, I've had opportunities where I was the other woman. And, of course, I would turn it down because I'm not the low-hanging fruit. You have to work for my time. And, but it's always interesting to see what they're willing to offer, knowing that you're not the low-hanging fruit. So I've, thought about it, carried the dialogue. I didn't do anything further. But I know that's still cheating, right? Mental conversation, flirting, with
Well,
someone who's in a relationship. That's wrong.
They
I've
say that
entertained
that's
that
cheating,
conversation.
and when I think of cheating,
Mhm.
it's not just a conversation. I mean, if it's a one-time conversation.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
What
So
if
you
it's ongoing?
now, if you keep doing it, that's
Yeah.
on you. Now,
Right.
you know when you're doing wrong.
Mhm.
That's the bottom line.
Mhm.
You know when you're peddling in water that ain't right.
Right.
So that's my take on that. But oftentimes, what I have seen, the woman who's on the outside expects to get the same treatment that the wife gets. How the hell are you gonna expect to get the same treatment the wife gets, and you ain't even married to this man? Yeah, if he died today or tomorrow, will you
Right.
get the insurance policy on him?
Nothing.
But you will fight for it because you think you're entitled to it.
Because you
Yeah.
think you're entitled. Now,
It's
what
crazy.
kind of woman
It's
does
crazy.
that?
Insecure.
Very insecure.
Absolutely.
Delusional.
Very true.
Delusional.
She's deceived. She's deceiving herself. When you become the other woman, that's a level of deception right
Yeah.
there. Because every day you are convincing yourself that he's going to leave his wife. He's going to
Right.
do this. I will be
Delusional.
that. I will never happen.
Never happened.
And you know what I've noticed? When I see situations and circumstances that occur, just like what we're talking about, where the outside woman is believing that this man is going to leave his wife, in my mind, I'm thinking, you're an idiot. Why?
Yes.
Because if he's cheating on his wife with your butt, who's to say he's not going to cheat on you with
Exactly.
the next woman that comes along? So I
That's
think
right.
you're being foolish to even think that, oh, he's going to be committed to me. Who's the real? You know what I say about that? The real winner, and that's really no winners in this.
Mm-mm.
But the married man really is the real winner.
Absolutely.
Again, it goes
Absolutely.
back to what we said earlier. You got your cake, you're eating it too.
Mhm.
You know, you get to be with your wife, you get to come home to a lovely little family and all this little cute stuff. And then you got your other chick on the outside who's giving you what you need when you need it. And she's the fool, to me.
Right. Very much so.
I mean, if I'm wrong, y'all just say, hey, you're wrong.
No, you're right.
No, my brother, which I probably shouldn't have said that because you know me, you know who my brother is. But my brother, not gonna say any names because I have so many.
Oh, okay.
Well, his excuse.
One of your play brothers,
My
right?
play
Your
brothers.
play brother.
Yeah, they're not a real one. Yeah, one of my
your
play brothers.
All right, her play brother, everybody.
Yeah, he tells us all the time, well, listen, if I don't get, my play brother's married, if I don't get what I need from my wife at home, then of course I'm going to go out and just go and do whatever I want. But at the end of the day, if this woman puts pressure on me, tries to make me, feel like I have to leave my wife or I have to do this certain thing for her, she's out. My wife's still in. I can still go home to her, lay up with her at night, get a home-cooked meal, have my clothes ironed for work. Everything's perfect, and I can still go out and do whatever I want to do. So my brother kept this theory until his wife really found out what was going on, and then she set his feet on fire. So.
Literally? Seriously?
She did.
Set his feet on fire?
She did.
Whoa.
So, watch
all
out.
right, you need to, whoa. You know what? Every now and then, there's moments on the show where I really don't even know what to say. But I have never heard of anybody getting their feet set on fire.
Well, she wanted to keep him from walking.
She wanted to keep And we'll be back with more of Let's Talk About It in just a moment with my wonderful guest. Hello and welcome back to this edition of Let's Talk About It. We are having the best dialogue today. Before we left, we actually had a moment where Tezzy was describing a situation that happened where a particular guy's feet were set on fire because he had actually cheated on his wife. You just never know what will happen, do you?
Nope. Can't be too sure.
You can never be too sure.
Don't push him.
Don't
That's
push.
right.
Now, you know what? Let's talk about something else that can happen when you cheat. What if your spouse cheated on you and brought home a disease? I'll start with you, Mr. Fly.
Absolutely unforgiving.
Unforgiving.
Absolutely unforgiving. A total no-no. How do you come back from that? In a relationship, it's a total defeat and a letdown in a relationship. And there's absolutely no coming back from that.
I'm sorry, say that a little bit louder for me.
There is
Gayland.
absolutely no coming back from that.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't feel like you can recover from that type of damage?
Well, we like to think we can. However, the damage is done when something like that happens because you never took the relationship serious enough not to think about there are consequences when you do wrong, and they will come up. As I hear often, I mean, life is choice driven. I mean, you live and die by the choices you make.
Right.
It's quite simple.
Tess, your opinion on that?
I like when you said so you mean you can't come back from that? I mean, what are you coming back from? Like, what do I have? Do I have something that I can even recuperate from? You know, could have given you AIDS. It could have given you herpes. Like, is it something that you can come back from?
Right.
You know. So I'm gonna agree with my friend here. Unforgivable.
So if your spouse gave you something, you could not go back to your spouse.
No, I would not go back to him. And you guys would probably see me on 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 5:30 news, 12 afternoon, all of it, because I'm gonna have to hang him.
Is that right?
Absolutely. I just can't do it.
Okay, but what if he came back to you and said, "Baby, I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
See,
I will never do it again. I know I was wrong. I love you. We have 3 kids and 2 dogs and a cat."
No, because you didn't consider this family enough.
Yep.
To think about what you were doing when you were doing it.
That's
now,
right.
why not use protection? You know, you just decided to have unprotected sex, like you weren't thinking about us. I'm not thinking about you.
That's right.
Bye.
Okay, Young, I'll pose the same question to you.
Well, I think the two of the guests articulated very well, and I agree. Unforgivable.
You know,
Unacceptable.
okay, and I can totally understand that. Now, one other question I want to have as it relates to this cheating thing. Why is it easier for a woman to forgive a man for infidelity than it is for a man to forgive a woman for infidelity? Why do you feel? And Young, let me start with you on that one.
Well, I think women just innately are more emotional, and we are nurturing. We have the heart to want to help everyone, or especially the ones that we feel we're connected to. So, because of that, you know, if they come back apologizing, you know, we buy into it because it's an emotional conversation. It's not so black and white because we can think outside of the box and we want to forgive. That's in our nature. So.
Okay, and
I agree completely with Young, and I think it's harder for a man to forgive because, for me, I would think it would be a pride issue. You know,
for
Yeah.
the male,
man.
For the man.
right?
it's
right.
all about their pride,
Okay.
so, which they like to keep intact. So.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Which they like to keep intact. So the pride is stepped on, pinched, cut, scraped,
It's done.
it's over.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Flye, what's your take on that?
Well, she's absolutely right. It is a prideful nature to some extent. However, I think that as a male, we do have the ability to disconnect. We're not as emotional as a woman would be. So we're able to sometimes take ourselves away from a certain situation and really not, so to speak, put the blinders on.
Okay.
And allow ourselves not to cut so deeply. And if we do cut so deeply, we're probably not going to let you see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the book says that y'all cry in the dark. Is that right?
Absolutely. And now real men do cry.
Okay.
And here's my take here. Where we miss it at is obviously in the spiritual realm. He who finds a wife findeth a good thing. He addeth no sorrow. He obtains favor of the Lord. And I think when you don't have the spiritual foundation, you set yourself up for danger. When you do take your spirituality you take it, but you don't take it lightly, and you find the perfect person that you are in one with God first, and then having that mate that will also get on their knees and pray, and you deal with the issues the proper way.
Right.
Then that's the way you really have a really conducive relationship.
Yep.
You have to put God first.
Yep.
You put him in front, and you go to him when
Absolutely.
there's an issue, in a situation, in circumstance. See, I can go to my wife and say, I can say, I'm having a challenge with you, and she can say to me, I'm having a challenge with you. I can take that into consideration. I can change. We can meet in the middle. But furthermore, I can go to God, and I can say to God, well, I'm having a problem, a challenge with my wife in this area. I need help. And don't be afraid to ask for help, because he's always there. He'll never leave us or forsake us. And that's where many men miss it, in my opinion.
Okay. Okay. Very good, Mr. Flye. Very,
I agree.
very good. So everybody's in agreement with what Mr. Flye just said.
100%.
100%. You know, I used to not be spiritual. So when I wasn't spiritual, I had a lot of friends who weren't very spiritual. And the way of thinking is, you know, you have, you know, strength just comes from you. And their way of thinking is, now I see it the way I used to think. It was extremely selfish, carnal, whatever the case might be. And so if you want to have a healthy relationship, you have to have your ego outside the door, right? In order to have ego outside of the door, you have to have God-centered relationship. And I think that's the only way to be successful. Otherwise, you don't know how to compromise, communicate, share, love at the end of the day. So I think spiritual-based relationship is key.
I think that's important. I also feel like a relationship is only as strong as the weakest link in the relationship. It's almost like a chain, and you're pulling the chain, and you can have really strong links, but the one link that has a crack in it will cause that to just fall apart. So we have to know the strengths and the weaknesses that our partners have in order to nurture and build in the areas that are deficient.
Yep.
And a lot of times I don't think we take time to look at those things. You know, we'll just jump right in and think, oh, it's going to work out once we get married and once this. And it just doesn't work that way. You know, so I think it's important that we take a look at all these different elements. I want to ask you guys, do you think it's possible for a male and a female to have a friendship?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think...
And the reason why I ask, a lot of times you'll hear, oh, it's impossible for a male and a female to have a relationship. A friendship, if both parties are even married, to have a friendship. That's something that I've heard a lot. But how do you feel about that?
I'm on the fence with that, you know, because I think in most cases, and I'll speak from my own experience, I'm not, you know, married or anything like that, but just having a friendship with a male works for only a short period of time. It never fails. Someone ends up liking somebody, you know, and either it's they're receptive to it or they're not. And if they're not receptive to it, then there goes the friendship.
Yep.
So I'm on the fence with that.
You're on the fence with it?
Yeah.
All right.
I feel the same way. I've had friends, I'd rather be friends with men who are married and I know the wife and I'm friends with them too, because then it's very clear there's no issues. You know, no one's going to cross the line.
I like that. I think that's cool.
But a single male, I think, you know, there's always in your back of your mind, like, is this going to go somewhere? Whatever the case, and there's a lot of confusion. So you have to be pretty clear.
But what if it's like a childhood friend, someone that you grew up with, and you've known all of your life?
I mean, it's a possibility. It's not impossible, but as an adult, we don't think like a child 100% of the time. So I think there's a risk.
There's a risk. Okay.
I think that it's possible. Me, myself, I have a best friend that happens to be female. I think that you have to set some parameters in a relationship. That person has to be comfortable with your wife, in the case of a male.
Be friends.
Right.
Or the wife would have to be, I guess, accepting of the male counterpart as well.
Absolutely.
But I think because, I mean, I look at it like this. I mean, it's 50% women, 50% men. You can't just hang out with the fellas all the time.
Right.
And I think it's comfortable and it's acceptable to have a lady be your friend.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And you know what? I'm enjoying the dialogue, but guess what? It's time for a break. We'll be back in just a moment with more of Let's Talk About It with my wonderful guests. Hello and welcome back to this edition of Let's Talk About It with my wonderful guests. We're about to wrap this particular show up. There's a couple of more questions that I wanted to ask my wonderful guests. All right, I'll start with you, Mr. Flye. When you become married, oftentimes we encounter problems with one or the other's family. How do you feel about meddling family members?
Oh my gosh.
And talk loud so we can hear you real well,
absolutely, brother. That is a key buzzword component that is absolutely critical when you consider a relationship, especially a married relationship, because you have to consider not only are you marrying your significant other, but you are becoming, and they are becoming a part of your entire family, if you would. And many times we don't consider that because we are so in love, and love sometimes will just blind us, and we don't really take a bird's eye view of the entire family. And many times we set ourselves up for failure because meddling families, I said meddling families, can tend to be a problem. I'm speaking from experience, that is.
And now when you experience a meddling family, the spouse, your spouse, that belongs to that meddling family, is it then her responsibility to say, okay, mom or dad or brother, this is my relationship, y'all get out of my business? Is it that person's responsibility who's married to you?
I believe that it is, and if it doesn't happen properly, if the proper expectation is not set, then the other person would have to bridge the gap there. Because if it doesn't happen via my wife, if she doesn't set the record straight with her family, then I, as the male, I have to come in and make it right.
Right.
And I have to say what I may have to step on some toes. I don't mean it in a negative sense, but this is my wife. This is how we conduct business. This is what we do, and we really just don't need your input at this time.
I like your answer. All right, Tezzy.
Well, again, not married, but it is the spouses, whoever family is meddling, it's their responsibility to set the record straight, create the boundaries. I like what my friend said about, you know, him having to possibly step up, or the other person possibly having to step up, but I can also see that backfiring because, you know, people are very particular about their families, you know, and so who are you to come and tell my mother or my anybody anything? You know, leave that up to me. I could just see that just kind of backfiring on you and causing more, you know, issues in the relationship, because I don't need you telling my family anything. It's that attitude.
It's that attitude. But what happens when you've told that person, you've told your spouse or your significant other that, okay, I need you to handle that because that's your people, but that person chooses not to handle it, then would that husband need to take a stand and say, hey, I tried to get you to handle it, but now I have to step in and handle it?
Yeah, I mean, the person at that point would be, of course, well within their right to do it. But again, if you have to do something like that, it's all in your delivery. So you have to be tactful, you know, use your better judgment when you do it. You don't want to go and just completely fly off the handle. You know, using tact and, you know, making sure that you are very stern and very direct and you get your point across without creating confusion is key.
All right, Young, what do you think about that?
Well, I definitely agree. I think as adults we should always be aware of our boundaries. And I think also the spouse, depending on, you know, the family, of course, the spouse can also run to the family and bring, you know, take their business to the family and create drama from there. You know what I mean? So I think the couple need to have the conversation from the very start. Like, if we have issues, let's keep it within these four walls.
And
don't be
that's
running
a great
around.
answer.
You know,
That's
don't
a
be running
great answer.
around to everyone talking about
Because I guess the thing is, once you put it out there,
it.
then it opens the door for the people that you're sharing it with to have an opinion.
That's right. And they
And
will
then
say
before you know it,
something.
that opinion has been interjected, and then it causes issues.
Yes.
You know,
Absolutely.
and the thing about it is, once you tell on your spouse,
Don't
on either side,
Yes. Yes.
don't let me be your friend, and you tell me something about your spouse,
Yeah.
and then you and your spouse get back together, everything is
right.
fine and well, and
Yeah.
I'm still hating because he a dirty
Exactly.
dog because he done cheated on my friend, and I don't
Right.
like you no more.
Right.
Absolutely.
So sometimes it's probably best that if you don't want me to have an opinion,
Mhm.
then don't tell me your business, because I'm going
Right.
to still hold it in my heart for a minute. And it's
Yeah.
going to take me a minute to get it out of my heart where I'm going to get cool with you again. But in the beginning, it ain't cute for me.
That's
And that's just real talk. I mean, I don't
That's
know
real
Yeah,
talk.
it is.
any other way
It's
to
true.
say it.
Oh,
Yeah.
and I think quite naturally, I mean, we are all biased, or we can be biased. Quite frankly, your family's going to be biased. They're not going to choose me over you in any situation. Now, I have had it when the mother of my wife did choose my side, but there are varying degrees to that. You can go this
There's
far, but
limitations.
not this far.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think you just have to set the proper expectation, and really and truly, there's only one standard in my opinion, and the standard is always set with the Word of God. I have to go back to that. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth will speak. So if everybody's standard is the Word of God, and we're all reaching for that standard, then we're really going to get it if we just kind of get as close to that as possible, and we stand on the Word.
I agree to a certain degree with that because we do fall short.
Absolutely.
So I agree with that, and of course that is key, you know, making sure that you keep God at the center of everything, but also keeping in mind that we are human and we do fall short. So you said earlier that, you know, or no, maybe it was you. I can't remember who said
It
what.
was one of us.
Somebody
It was
said
somebody.
something.
It was somebody.
Right. Somebody said something. But I had a situation with a friend where the husband did cheat. It was explained. We hated him. you know, we really hated him. But when she forgave him, they decided to work it out. And I was able to see, you know, him really making a due diligence to do better, you know, take care of his family and not go back to his old ways. Then I was able to forgive. And at this point, it's like nothing ever
That's
happened.
wonderful.
And that is
Wonderful.
great. That is great.
Yeah,
wonderful.
so I was
You know,
able to forgive.
And I think that's great. And there is a lot of power in forgiveness
Mm-hmm.
when you can get to the point where you can forgive. But there's one other quick thing I want to talk about. Do you think the roles of men and women have been switched in today's society?
Yes.
Where because so often
Yes.
now you see that the women are actually the breadwinners
Absolutely.
Yes.
and are like making a lot more money and more contribution to the household and family. Whereas the men are not doing that. How do you guys feel about the role reversal? Not to say that it's intentional, but it's just the way that it has happened over a period of time. Young, what's your thoughts on that?
That's a heavy conversation.
And I want you to say it loud so
Well,
them cameras can hear you.
So I think we need to, men and women, we really need to revisit this identity, because women are confused as well. We kind of got fed into working, and then we kind of lost our femininity because we're trying to make a stance, trying to be strong and do a lot of things. And then so we kind of forgot and allowed men to not be the gentleman that we grew up to, we were taught to, if that makes
So
sense.
to taught to recognize.
Exactly.
so that you
yes.
would have that, yeah.
And men, same thing, because women are becoming more independent. They make jokes about, well, women won't let me open the door for them. They're confused too. So we have this whole society of single people confused. Like, well, I don't want to offend her. She's an independent woman.
Right.
X, Y,
And you know what? A lot of women are like that these days. Like, I don't need a man. I'm an independent.
That's a lie.
You know,
That's a lie.
You see that a lot,
Yeah.
and you hear it a lot. You know, we got so much to talk about,
I
y'all.
know.
We're gonna have to take a few more minutes to get a little bit more dialogue in before we wrap up this show. But we'll be right back in just a moment with more of Let's Talk About It with my wonderful guest. Hello and welcome back to this edition of Let's Talk About It. We're about to wrap this show up. I got one more quick question to ask the ladies, actually. Now, oftentimes I hear women say, oh, I want a man that wears a suit, and I want this, a white-collar work and all this stuff. Would you date a blue-collar worker? Wow.
Mum's the word.
Wow. And you know what? I'm glad they responded that way because it gives me the opportunity to say something that I would like to say. I feel like that's all they can do is laugh, but they're guilty in their heart.
We're thinking.
But I feel, no, because women have already thought about it. You ain't thinking. A lot of times I think that women end up missing somebody that's really good for them because they don't look at the good man that might be wearing the blue collar. They're looking at the guy that wears the white collar that might be beating their butt when they get home. Now, I'm not saying that about all, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, a lot of times you end up missing out on something that could be good for you because you're going after a fantasy of what you think, oh, I want a white collar worker, and you messing up, you losing out. But then they say, oh, it's a shortage of men, they gay, they this, they that, they fool around, they all cheat, well, take a look at yourself too and see the options that you could have that you've chosen not to take advantage of. And on that note, I'm going to wrap up this segment of Let's Talk About It on today. Thanks so much, guys, for joining me. I hope you guys enjoyed this segment as much as I did of Let's Talk About It today on relationships. It was very insightful and sometimes very funny. For more information on this show topics, and ideas, you can email us at letstalkaboutit12tv@gmail.com. That's Let's Talk About It 12tv@gmail.com. I look forward to seeing you next time.